The Washington Commanders say they want competition across the board. Well, if they want a challenger for a guard spot, they may have to go get them early in the NFL draft. Right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome inside today's episode of Locked On Commanders. I'm your host, David Harrison, here with you every Monday through Friday, sometimes even on the weekend. But I'm your friend, your eyes, your ears on the ground every single day, covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com, also helping out with WUSA9.com's local coverage of the team. I want to thank you for coming through today. A little bit of a bonus episode as we continue our Prospect Big Board series. We got a lot of position groups to get into. No time to take a day off. We'll rest after the NFL draft. Just kidding. We won't, because we got rookie minicamp. We got to evaluate the draft picks, all that stuff up. Anyway, it's never a day at work when you're covering football, right? It's always a fun day. Every day, there's those of you who come through every single day and join me here as we talk about the Washington Commanders. Appreciate you coming through every single day. Everybody out there, if you're not already, please subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode. If you're new to the show, good timing, because it's a bonus episode, so you wouldn't have found it if you were looking any other day. Hopefully you like what you see or hear, and you come back and join us again very, very soon. Locked On Commanders is a daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase on tickets for sporting events, live events, comedy, theater, whatever it is you want tickets to. Game Time has got you covered. Our next position group in our position group big board series, interior offensive linemen, our insiders, basically from their input, not a formal vote, but from their input, basically helping me determine the order that we're going to go through these. Next up, interior offensive line. We're talking centers, we're talking guards, but more specifically talking guards. That's really what the insiders want to get to the meat of, but we do have a mixture of guards and centers in here. And they want a starting challenger. They want somebody who's going to come in and challenge for a starting position. Now, Tyler Biadasz, I feel like, is pretty solidified in his spot. Sam Cosmi, when he's healthy, is pretty solidified that right guard spot. So really, the spot you have to challenge is that left guard spot with Nick Allegretti. And as we look at our top 7 big board for interior offensive linemen in this year's NFL draft and how they stack, number 1 comes up as Gray Zabel, North Dakota State lineman. Number 2 is Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. 3rd is Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. 4th, Miles Frazier out of LSU. 5th, Tyler Booker from Alabama. 6th, Jared Wilson from Georgia. 7th, Dylan Fairchild, also from Georgia. Georgia Bulldogs represented very well here. So again, I don't think Sam Cosmi's job is at risk unless there is some sort of serious setback with his injury history or injury recovery. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. Nick Allegretti, I feel like Nick did a very solid job. I really like Nick's energy. I really like how he gets to the second level, does all those things. But if I were to call him a solidified, locked in, his job is no way touchable type of starter, I'd be lying to you. I think that there is a potential if the right guy gets picked and the right guy comes in, all that stuff. I do think it's going to take an early draft pick. So that's what I said in the open. If they want true competition for Nick Allegretti's spot, I do think it's going to have to come in the form of like a first or a second round pick. I don't know if anybody in the 3rd round or later is going to truly come in and challenge Nick, but could still challenge to make the roster, get a spot on the roster, and then who knows, eventually develop into a starting caliber player later on down the road, right? So certainly talent to be had across the board, but if you're looking for that specific day 1 challenger, I think you definitely are looking at day 1 or second round of day 2. So that's just, the way that I see it right now. So don't consider this a day 1 need, right? I don't consider this a day 1 need. I don't think anybody really considers interior offensive line a day 1 need. But again, if the right guy is there, Adam Peters could be swayed towards taking one. So we're going to start at the top of the possible guys available. Typically, we kind of like to come through with a discriminator. Our discriminator here, honestly, is going to be leaning on expert big boards. NFL.com's Daniel Jeremiah, PFF, kind of combining the expert big boards on interior offensive linemen, things like that. So that's how we're going to kind of run this up. And to get our top 14 in the order from the conglomeration of big boards that we looked at, the 14 guys we're looking at: Tyler Booker out of Alabama, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, Jared Wilson from Georgia, Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State, Willie Lampkin from North Carolina, Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati, Connor Colby out of Iowa, Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota, Jonah Monheim out of USC, Dylan Fairchild from Georgia, Jake Majors from Texas, Miles Frazier from LSU, and the drills that we're looking at. Look, I'll be honest with you, like the bench press, it's impressive, shows a lot of strength, but there's really no direct correlation to doing a whole lot of bench presses of 225 pounds and being a dominant interior offensive lineman. 20-yard shuttle, you like the lateral quickness, you like the fluidity, all that stuff. But again, there's not like a direct correlation between being an all-pro and having a great 20-yard shuttle time. Broad jump, very big sign of lower body strength, explosiveness, all the good stuff that you want out of an interior offensive lineman, of course. But again, no direct correlation. So I don't want to say that the drills don't matter, just that they're not as heavily weighed. And I want to make that clear as we come in here, because as we talked about kind of the grading scale, and I know you don't get to see or hear like the entire grading nuances. Trust me, you wouldn't want to hear all the numbers and markings and all that stuff anyway. But usually what we've been doing is if you're top 3 and that you get a point if you're top 7, because again, top 7 big board. If you're top 3, you get an extra, you get a bonus point, right, for being one of the best of the best. In this case, when it comes to the combine drills, these guys aren't going to get those bonus points. You're going to get a point if you're top 7. Outside of that, you're not going to get any of the bonus points for being like top 3. Okay. Now, when it comes to the analysis, the data analysis, right? Again, we're trying to take observations from tape and try to not turn them into data because the data is already there, but use the data to kind of paint the picture for what we see on tape. And of course, we'll talk directly about what we see on the tape as well as we get through these evaluations. But we're going to use PFF, we're going to use pass blocking grades, we're going to use run blocking grades. And I know not everybody loves the PFF system, but the thing, at least in the PFF system we can lean on here, is that everybody is evaluated on the same sheets. Everybody's evaluated by the same criteria, right? There's no like Ohio State evaluation. There's no LSU evaluation. Everybody's evaluated the same way. So even if you don't love the grade itself, at least like if we got a 10-point spread between the Ohio State guy and the LSU guy, that's a significant spread. They're at least graded on the same rubric, if that makes sense. We're also going to look at pressures allowed in pass protection. I think pass protection is going to be the biggest part here, right? Like I think when you talk about, do you want to lean for, if you have 2 candidates that you like equally, but one's a really good run blocker, but bad pass blocker, and one's a good pass protector, but bad run blocker, I think you got to take the pass pro guy because you got to protect Jaden Daniels, right? That's got to be primary number 1. I know you want a run blocker, but you got to protect Jaden Daniels number 1. Then we're going to, of course, rely heavily on the tape for run blocking because outside of run blocking grades, not a whole lot of metrics to lean on. So looking at just the combine drills, looking at bench, 20-yard shuttle, and broad jump, our top 10 from our group of 14 shape out like this, just athletically testing wise. First up, Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota, our 10th place guy on the big board conglomeration, actually comes in first when it comes to athletic testing. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State is second. Connor Colby from Iowa comes in third. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, fourth. Fifth is Jared Wilson out of Georgia. Sixth is Miles Frazier out of LSU. Seventh, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Eighth, Willie Lampkin from North Carolina. Ninth, Tate Ratledge from Georgia. 10th, Luke Kandra from Cincinnati. Now, it is important to point out that not all these guys did all the drills, right? So, of course, if you didn't do a drill, you can't finish top 7. You can't get a point, all that stuff. Specifically, Ohio State center Seth McLaughlin, he's still recovering from a season-ending Achilles injury that he suffered in mid-November. That's going to come up later in the conversation as well. So he didn't do any drills at the combine, didn't do any drills with the pro day, things like that. Jonah Monheim out of USC didn't do any athletic drills. He did do position drills, no athletic drills. A little bit suspect, to be quite honest with you, because a lot of his marks or a lot of his knocks are some of those athletics, some of those, athletic measurables. And even though they're not as important as obviously the tape and all that stuff, you still like to see a guy who that's your knock kind of go out there and try to perform and show guys that maybe it's not as big of a deal as is being made out to be. So that's our top 10 out of our 14. Before we get to the grades, the quantifiable data, how the list shapes up after we get through that and how it all leads into our tape study coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that thanks to our friends over at Upwork. And Upwork says scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So you can find the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork is going to get you the freelance expert who delivers incredible results. If you need fast and easy hiring, well, you can post your job free and simply, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates should make themselves present for you to choose from. And the best part is it's cost-effective growth for you. So visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Continuing now, today's episode of Locked On Commanders, stacking our interior offensive lineman big board for the 2025 NFL draft. And we will start using these big boards to help us with our mock drafts moving forward. I know I've got some insiders who have asked for a list, a conglomeration, combination of all these players so that as the draft is going on, they can use it to kind of go along. And it's a really interesting idea. And I would love it if Adam Peters would just do nothing but pick from my list. It would make me look really correct. And that would be very helpful to anybody in the media to look correct 100% of the time. So we have our athletic testing, right? Top 10. And we have some guys that have already kind of jumped up the list a little bit, right? Like Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota was 10th when we looked at kind of our big board conglomeration of these players. He was 10th, but then he jumps to first. He's at 6th best bench press out of all the players on this list, 4th best 20-yard shuttle, 6th best broad jump, right? So really good marks for Tyler Cooper there, athletically speaking. Comes in first place overall. Somebody who might be a little bit of a surprise on this list, Tyler Booker, the first player when it comes to expert big boards out of Alabama. But bottom line is 8th in bench press, 4th in 20-yard shuttle, which is good. Lateral movement, definitely showcasing itself. 10th in broad jump, 7'10" broad jump, not very good for an elite blocker. Again, we're not going to put a lot of weight on these things, but there's a little bit of weight. And so he drops from first place to 7th place because of those measurements. So now we want to incorporate the grades, right? And when we incorporate the grades, Zabel out of North Dakota State, who is kind of in that competition for being the number one guy next to Tyler Booker on most people's big boards, Zabel goes from 4th. He started off 2nd on the big board comparison behind Tyler Booker, dropped to 4th in the athletic testing because he was 4th in bench, 3rd in the broad jump, 9'3" broad jump. But he comes in 1st in pass blocking grade, 93.1 overall. 2nd in pressures allowed, 7 of them. 2nd in run block grade, 86.4. Those are great numbers. Because of those numbers, he jumps from 4th to 1st on our big board heading into once we get done with the grades, before we get to the tape, after the grades. So he goes from 2nd, drops down to 4th with the athletic testing, and then he jumps back up to 1st with the evaluation in the quantifiable data department. 2nd place is athletic Georgia center Jared Wilson, who started off 5th, stayed at 5th after the athletic testing, was 1st in our 20-yard shuttle. So you like that lateral movement. 2nd in broad jump, good lower body explosion. Had the 7th best pass blocking grade, was 1st, which means he gave it the least amount of pressures on this entire list, and had the 5th best run blocking grade. So you like all of that. He ends up 2nd place in our big board. Following the data, 3rd place, Willie Lampkin out of North Carolina, who we're going to talk about later. I had a lot of fun watching Willie Lampkin's tape. I'm going to tell you right now, I am hoping somehow, some way he ends up with Washington. I just want to cover this dude. Started off 7th in our big board collection, dropped 1 spot to 8th after the athletics. He was 9th in bench, 3rd in the 20-yard shuttle, 9th in the broad jump. But he comes back up to 3rd when you look at the data. 2nd best pass blocking grade at 88.8 according to PFF. Only gave up 8 pressures, which is 5th best in this group, and had the best run blocking grade of the entire group, 87.6, which is going to come back in our conversation later. I thought it was a little bit of a wild evaluation, but so what I do is once I have my evaluation, I watch the tape. I check myself against my more experienced, more established peers. So I go to like the NFL.coms and I just check their notes against mine. And if they point out something that I didn't have pointed out, I go back. Look, if I disagree, I disagree. It just is what it is. We're not all going to see things the same way. But every once in a while I get a little bit of a glint. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying there. And I adjust my notes to see. But so I thought I had a little bit of a wild take when it came to Willie Lampkin. But once I read Lance Zierlein's NFL.com profile, I realized it's not that wild. But it's still a little bit fun, at least, to think about. Tyler Cooper, our guy from Minnesota who went from 10th place in the big board collection to 1st place after the athletic testing with the 6th best bench, 4th best 20-yard time or 20-yard shuffle time and 6th best broad jump. Falls a little bit here. He falls to 4th place. So he drops 3 spots on our big board. 14th best pass blocking grade, 8th in pressures, 3rd best run blocking grade from Tyler Cooper there out of Minnesota to be our 4th guy. Connor Colby out of Iowa jumps from 9th to 3rd, falls back a little bit here to 5th. 13th best pass blocking grade. Not good. That helped drop him a little bit. Spoiler alert, it's going to drop him a little bit more when it comes time to do our final big board here. Tate Ratledge, which if you remember in the beginning here, he's our number 2 guy on the overall big board. Started 4th in the big board conglomeration, 9th after athletic testing. He's 6th here on this list. 2nd, fewest pressures given up, only 7 pressures given up in 2024. Had the 6th best run blocking grade and 9th best pass blocking grade. And then 7th, Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati goes from 8th when we started this whole thing to 10th after the athletic testing. And now he's going to be 7th with the 5th lowest amount of pressures given up and the 7th best run blocking grade and the 10th best pass blocking grade. So again, a little bit of a drop in the pass blocking comparison according to the rest of his line mates here on this list. So that's 7th. 8th was Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. 9th, Miles Frazier out of LSU. 10th, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. 11th, Dylan Fairchild from Georgia. 12th, Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State. 13th, Jake Majors out of Texas. 14th, Jonah Monheim out of USC. As always, though, we're going to take it back to the tape. So we're going to take it back to the tape here, and we're going to see how our final big board took shape, why the players shuffled the way that they did. But before we get to that, I do have some honorable mentions. So again, I'm not an NFL scouting staff, right? I don't have 30 dudes to break down tape. It's just me. So I can't watch everybody, but there are some other names that came up during the course of this that are very interesting guys. If I have time, I may go through there. If they get drafted, I'll be very excited to kind of dive a little bit deeper than I was able to before we get to this episode. Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State. So some guys from some fringe schools that a lot of you may not know about, but Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State was an interesting guy. Clay Webb from Jacksonville State, John Williams from Cincinnati, Caleb Rogers from Texas Tech, Drew Kendall from Boston College, Eli Cox from Kentucky, Jonah Savanaya out of Arizona, and Marcus Mbao out of Purdue. Some honorable mentions there that we're not going to be able to get to on this specific episode, but definitely wanted to drop their names just as an awareness tool. So again, a lot of guys on the board this year that the Washington Commanders could pick from, but I think we got a good spread here going from early in the draft to later in the draft, and we will break down our solidified final answer, top 7 big board coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that thanks to our friends over at Amazon Fire TV and Locked On. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. The latest technology elevates your playing with Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode. Advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smooth, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. And you get your endless entertainment with 4K streaming. You can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, stacking and racking our favorite interior offensive lineman from this year's NFL draft. And again, we're going to break down the top 7 here. I'm going to tell you why they made the top 7 over some of the other guys, but our top 7 again, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State leading the charge. 2nd place, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. 3rd, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. 4th, Miles Frazier from LSU. 5th, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. 6th, Jared Wilson from Georgia. 7th, Dylan Fairchild from Georgia. I know some of you are probably going to say, how does this dude have Tyler Booker 5th when pretty much everybody else has him 1st amongst this group anyway? Again, there are some linemen, some interior offensive linemen that potentially, could play inside, could play outside. Linemen, basically, that could go earlier that are not on this list. But Gray Zabel at North Dakota State. Gray Zabel is interesting because Gray Zabel came out of the Reese's Senior Bowl, and there were people talking about him going into teens. And I was like, yo, I'm not there. Now, as we get closer to the NFL draft, it's like, well, he could go day one, he could go day two. That's about where I am with Gray Zabel. It's about where I've always been with Gray Zabel. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, after covering a GM with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jason Light, who is incredibly bold when it comes to drafting small school offensive linemen, you would think I'd be more comfortable with it, but I'm not. To be quite honest with you, most GMs in the league would probably call me a coward when it comes to small school offensive linemen. I hate trusting the tape when, you're looking at a lot of guys, not all the guys, okay, just to be respectful, but a lot of guys who couldn't even make it in like the Toledos of the world. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Toledo either, right? But Gray Zabel, that's just who he went up against a lot of the times. He started off on our list second, dropped to fourth after the athletic testing, came back up to first. That's where he stays after we watch the tape. 6'6", 312 pounds, first or second round projection. Top 40 pick, right? Like I can't imagine he's going to get outside the top 40. Came in fourth in bench, third in broad, first in pass blocking, second in run blocking, second in pressures allowed. So the stats and the data certainly measured. Dude is just a beast, right? He's got guard center versatility, could be an emergency offensive tackle. I wouldn't make that his primary position by any means, but if in a pinch you need him, he could go out there. He's great. He's got great physicality. Comes from the small school, and his hands get outside of the defender when he is trying to sustain his blocks. I watched a lot of the Senior Bowl tape. I watched his game tape, of course, but I watched a lot of Senior Bowl tape because I just felt like that was, to me, going to be some of the most reflective of what he might do at the next level, because at least he's going up against guys who might actually be playing in the NFL this coming season. A lot of guys who are going to be playing in the NFL this coming season. And he did well. He did well. So Gray Zabel, deservedly so, getting that first notch on our big board. Second place coming in, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Started fourth, dropped to ninth, climbed to sixth, climbed to second. 6'6.5", 308 pounds, second round projection for Tate here. So again, you're talking like in a trade back scenario, perhaps, I don't know if these guys are all going to be there at 61, per se. First at broad, so you like that lower body power, good pass blocking grade, better run blocking grade as far as ranking is concerned, not, isolated. Only gave up 7 pressures in 2024 altogether. 3-year starter at Georgia. So you love that amount of experience. We know the Commanders love to have guys who have experience, so that is a big part of it. Obviously, that's not a tape study thing, but it is a significant factor. This dude's a dog. You turn on Tate Ratledge tape, and this dude is a dog. This guy likes to get dirty. He likes to get in there. He likes to get into it. He likes to fight. He has length. Does get a little bit grabby late in reps, which I think is a little bit of that dog in him. Like, he likes to fight. You know what I'm saying? He likes to get in there and tussle. But this without need to be corralled just a little bit. But you like the attitude. You like the approach that Tate Ratledge brings to the field. And then he actually gets ahead of Donovan Jackson, who might be a little bit of a surprise. A lot of people have Donovan Jackson late first round, early second round. He was started off as our third place guy, ends up as our third place guy after a little bit of fluctuation out of Ohio State. 6'4", 315 pounds, second best in bench. So you know that the strength is there. Look, his evaluations from PFF just didn't look, completely sexy. 11th best pass blocking grade, 10th best run blocking grade, 14th. The Purdue gave him 19 pressures in 2024. You don't love that. But again, 3-year starter at Ohio State, big time school, very athletic guy, does play with wide hands. So he gets his hands outside the frame, which is not good for flags. And he's a little bit slow off the line of scrimmage, slow off the snap. So that would need to be picked up. That's why he fell behind a guy like Tate Ratledge for me. Just a little bit less of a dog, a little bit more passive Donovan Jackson is. And I just don't think that necessarily fits as much what the Commanders are trying to do here. Fourth place, Miles Frazier out of LSU, former teammate of Jaden Daniels, 6'6", 317-pound lineman, fourth round projection for Miles Frazier, but he comes in ahead of a couple of guys that have a little bit better projections in there. And I'm not necessarily saying like if the command, what I'm saying here, like for me, if Miles Frazier, if you're talking first or second round, Miles Frazier is going to be on the board, right? What I'm saying is, to me, I think he's a better fit for the Commanders. Understand, big boards like Daniel Jeremiah, like PFF, they're evaluating these guys in a vacuum. What I'm talking about here is specific to the way the Commanders play. That's why these boards are a little bit different sometimes. You may still think that Tyler Booker fits what the Commanders want to do better than, say, Miles Frazier. We're just going to disagree, and that's okay. I've always said agreement is not a requirement to watch the episode. Just be respectful. I'm respectful of your opinions. I just ask that you be respectful of mine. Miles Frazier comes in fourth, 6'6", 317 pounds, 4-year starter at LSU. You'll love that. He's a mauler at the line of scrimmage. Watch this dude pull. Watch this guy pull around the line of scrimmage and just hammer dudes. I mean, you love it. I remember sitting in training camp multiple days with Zach Selby, the Commanders team reporter, and we're just watching. It's padded days. We're just watching linemen pull, and like some of them are passive, and you hate that. Some of them are just monsters. Miles Frazier is a monster. Does have small hands, reaches in pass pro a little bit, so you don't love that, but he comes in fourth, and that's just the way I see the Commanders, what they want, potentially, at least what I think they want, right? That's where I've got him. Tyler Booker comes in fifth, and again, he's going to be the surprise on this list for a lot of people. He's got a first or second round grade projection. He's on this list. He's projected to be the first guy off the board. He's projected to go again ahead of Gray Zabel, all that stuff. Started off first because, again, the conglomeration of big boards, he was the top guy, goes to seventh, goes to 10th, comes back up to fifth after we watched the tape. So the tape obviously helped him out because it should, right? 6'5", 321 pounds, didn't do great in the athletic testing, only finished top 7 in the 20-yard shuttle, which you love, the side-to-side mobility. Didn't finish 7th in run block grade, finished top 5 in pass blocking grade, which is solid. As a team captain in Alabama, so you like that. Strong technique, football IQ on display. The things that you don't like about him, and I got to give a little bit of credit to Lance Zierlein for this one. I finished my tape study, went back, I read Lance Zierlein's evaluation of him, and something that he said is that Tyler Booker is better on his second block than he is his first block. And I was like, that's a really interesting way to put that. So I went back, watched another game, and yeah, man, like don't get me wrong, he'll be solid on his first block, but that second block is a whole lot better. You need that first block to be strong, though. You really do need that first. And we're not talking about when you like hit a guy, pass him off, get to the second level. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you are engaging a guy for the first, like we hear like Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury talk about the first play, right? Then the play extends. Now you're into your second play. That's when he does his best work. He kind of needs a little bit of a runway. Actually, if you watch his 40, you kind of see him like he kind of like spins his wheels coming out of the blocks, and then as he goes, he gets a little bit better. Like that's a really good way to describe his blocking as well. Limited athleticism. If you're going to tell me Tyler Booker was going to come in and try to compete as a center, I'd be happier. But with Tyler Biadasz on the roster, I don't think you're spending a late first, early second round pick on a center. So, like, you know what I mean? If Tyler Booker was a center, he'd be more of a Commander's fit for me. But because he's a guard, that's why he's down here at fifth place. Does have talent, obviously. I'm not saying the dude's not talented. I just think the fit is a little bit weak. Sixth place on our board, Jared Wilson out of Georgia, 6'3", 310 pounds, second or third round projection. Had the fastest 20-yard shuttle, so you love that lateral movement. Second best broad jump, so good lower body strength. Was top 7 in pass blocking, first in pressures, fifth in run blocking. So good numbers all around. Good hands, uber athletic, like very athletic dude. And that's the Commanders really like that athleticism. They like guys who can get outside, shift directions, get up to the second level. They like guys that can move on the offensive line. He's a center-only prospect, no guard, so you're talking backup center, which second or third round, I mean, that's a little rich for me to draft a backup center. Only a one-year starter, so again, kind of goes against the experience thing the Commanders seem to like. They really got to like the traits. I like the athleticism in there. I like all that stuff, so that's why I put him up there at number 6. Rounding out the list, number 7, Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. Started on this thing as our 12th prospect, according to the combined big boards from around the league. But for me, he's our 7th guy, so he climbs up a little bit. 6'5", 318-pound, 4th round projection, 3rd best broad jump, 11th pass blocking grade, not great, which is why he's down here at 7th. 8th best run blocking grade, better. 7th in pressures, only gave up 9 pressures. He's got good hands, good lateral movement, like we just talked about. Doesn't have all the strength in the world, which most athletic linemen don't have as much. Second level struggles, which is why this is kind of the line. Like, honestly, like there's second level struggles. Again, this Commanders team needs those second level players. So if you're talking about trying to challenge for a starter, you're not really going to get it starting in the 4th round here with Dylan Fairchild, although he is 7th in our big board. There, Jake Majors, the center out of Texas, comes in 8th. Seth McLaughlin, the center out of Ohio State, who actually won the Remington Award as college football's best center, comes in behind the Texas center at 9th. Again, that season-ending Achilles injury roughly takes about 9 months to come back from that Achilles injury, which means McLaughlin not going to be able to really start his work, like getting back to football activities until you hit training camp. For an offensive lineman, that's really rough. So I think if you draft McLaughlin, you're kind of looking at a redshirt year right off the bat. So, he's got a 5th round projection, 6'4", 304 pounds. IQ is off the charts. Toughness is off the charts. But just because of that, I think you got to go later in the third round if you're the Commanders looking at bringing him in, because he's not going to be a 2025 guy. Tyler Cooper, who jumped up to first place in our athleticism measures, ends up 10th on this list. Now we want to talk about Willie Lampkin, North Carolina. Started 7th on our big boards, dropped 1 spot to 8th when you talked about athleticism, 3rd after grades, 2nd best pass blocking grade, 5th best in giving up pressures, 1st run blocking grade, finishes 11th. Why? Because he's an interior offensive lineman. He's 5'10", 270 pounds. He is small. 7th round projection, right? And that part of that is because of his size. Great run blocker, very athletic. What I thought might be a little bit of a hot take, I wouldn't mind seeing the Commanders take him, or if he goes undrafted, sign him and make him a fullback. We've seen Ben Sinnott do some fullback work, right? Kind of that H-back, that whatever. Make him a fullback. I don't know if he can catch, you know what I mean? But make him a fullback, man. Just make him a big dude. Again, you got to find a spot on him for the roster, special teams contributor somewhere, stuff like that. But, man, if you could get this kid to be a fullback, I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch. Luke Kandra from Cincinnati comes in 12th. Connor Colby from Iowa, 13th. Jonah Monheim out of USC comes in 14th. Basically, he stayed 14th across the board. So, again, our top 7 big board, interior offensive lineman, Gray Zabel, number 1 out of North Dakota State. Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, number 2. Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State, number 3. Miles Frazier out of LSU, number 4. Tyler Booker out of Alabama, number 5. Jared Wilson, Georgia, number 6. Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia, number 7. And if you want any type of challenger to any type of starting position, you really got to get one of those first 4 guys as far as I'm concerned. So that's our interior offensive line big board. Coming up next, we will have another position group, another big board as we get geared up for next weekend's or this weekend's, depending on when you're listening or watching this, might be already next week. The NFL draft right around the corner. So thanks for coming through for this episode. If you got questions or comments, you can send them directly to me via text message. Join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to text me. I'm going to text you. You become an insider. You get all kinds of fun information and news and extra bonus content like game film. We're going to start our film studies series. Already got the first name, running back Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, winning the vote from insiders. So that'll be our first film study going out to insiders this weekend. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NFL mock draft, available now on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast show or feed on the Locked On YouTube or where you're listening to this episode. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every dayers. Thanks for coming through every single day. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.